Another question that's come in on my social media is what exactly is an opinion versus a judgment? What's the difference? What's the distinction? Well, a judgment is literally some sort of an assessment, an evaluation of some person, place, thing, idea, or event. And it could be you. And so when you judge something, you're perceiving more advantages than disadvantages or more disadvantages than advantages. Now, once you have that judgment, you're probably going to be seeking or avoiding it. Your amygdala, which is a subcortical nuclei in the brain, deeper telencephalon, is basically assigning valency, emotional charge, you might say, to an event that you've seen with your senses. And it's now assessing whether it's prey or predator. It's got more positives than negatives or negatives than positives. It makes you seek or avoid it with an impulse and an instinct. That's a judgment. But also when somebody asks you about that judgment and you give them your assessment of that, that's an opinion. So you really can't separate judging from opinions because opinions are basically based on a judgment and they're usually subjectively biased. They're usually slanted one side or the other. If you have both sides simultaneously, you have a mixed emotion about it. You're not having an opinion or a judgment about it. You're having the fact, you might say. You're seeing both sides simultaneously. You're putting the facts on the table objectively. If you have some polarity to it and it's valent, you have a subjective bias and you're now labeling it positive or negative and you now judge it and now you have a highly polarized opinion about it. When you see people right now in America, for instance, there's political judgments. There's pro-Trump or anti-Trump or pro-Biden or Harris or anti-Biden and Harris. And these are opinions, but they're also judgments. So you really can't separate those when you're making an articulate communication to somebody about what you judge. You have an opinion. And opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth. That which circulates the most usually has the least value, and that which the media likes to promote, the mass media loves to promote sensational, highly polarized opinions and judgments. But if you hold yourself accountable to see both sides of somebody and see both sides simultaneously and have it's neither positive nor negative, you've transcended opinion and you've transcended a judgment, and your heart opens. You feel, and a heart opening is basically when you just love something, where you see the pair of opposites simultaneously. But most opinions are a result of highly polarized judgments. And so it's just your description, proposition about this individual that you are being judged, that you're judging, or this event, or this idea. And so you really can't separate your judgments and your opinions in most cases. If you're completely neutral on something and you basically have a balanced opinion, you still have your perspective of somebody, but typically opinions are usually biased, subjective, they're polarized in most cases. But you can have a completely neutral opinion. You could, and you would then have an objective fact. We call it an objective view on somebody, not a subjective opinion. Most of the time, opinions are polarized, but you could have an objective perspective on somebody. Some people may call it opinion. It could be something that's a synthesis of all the opinions. I'd rather take all the different opinions about something and put them all in a blender, homogenate them, and get the facts all on the table and get all the opinions together. And maybe if you got a nice dialectic of opposites, you get maybe the fact of what it really is. Most of the time, you just get subjectively biased, judged opinions. So can you separate them? Not really. So beware. Ask yourself, if you see a positive side, spin to it, what's the downside? If you see a negative, what's the upside? See if you can't bring yourself back into seeing both sides and have a more balanced view and transcend the judgment, and then have a factual statement objectively about somebody instead of some subjective opinion that's highly polarized.